chess operates, right?
Exactly, yeah. And I always feel like, so you know, or at least I know when I just start recording by the way, because it's like whatever. We're just
Rock and roll, let's fucking do it.
gonna talk about interesting shit anyway. Might as well share it. So I can feel when I'm like flowing, my energy's like flowing, and I'm in like the higher vibrational mindset. All of the different variables at the same time in poker, and all of them just kind of like come together without having to think about it. And you can feel kind of how many of them there are, because you notice like a live tell, and you notice like, oh, I've seen this spot before, and people tend to play it like this. You notice like where they're from, stuff like that. And you kind of get an idea of how many variables just get smushed together, even though you're not consciously recognizing all of them individually. Whereas with chess, I feel like it's more like there's maybe like two of those at a time, even though with the specific kind of thinking ahead thing that is obviously pretty renowned in chess, that goes a lot deeper. I would say you don't need to be as good at that many things in comparison to poker.
Yeah, and it probably doesn't tap into as many like unconscious, as much unconscious learning as you've done, which I think you're an integrated learner. Wouldn't you say that? So you have been able to take a lot of the things that you've learned and bring them all to bear on one another, as opposed to people that learn kind of in isolation.
Yeah, I've never actually I've never heard of that term. I guess that would describe me, but I wouldn't know how far along on the spectrum I am. Whereabouts are you on that?
Well, I was going to speak from experience and relate to you. I think that I'm pretty much like more in the integrated sense. So everything I learned in the context of everything else, which helped me see it in different ways. But the reason I thought that was worth sharing there was because I feel like in poker, it lets you bring so much more of your intelligence to bear on it. Not to say that you don't have a very, very skilled mind at like the pattern recognition part of it, but you remember the study when they talk about in chess where it was like, if you showed a common board state, they could remember patterns like and recreate it. But if you just showed them random chess pieces, they weren't that much better than people that were just bright at it.
I've not seen that, but I've taken something along those lines of that test.
Yeah. So I would expect you to be like really good at that, but you know, that speaks to something about the intelligence that's going on there, I think. Right. And I think that you probably have developed and were naturally good at and had the personality for multiple kinds of intelligence, which poker allows you to bring to bear that chess just wouldn't.
Yeah, I was actually surprised how good I was at poker intuitively, because I thought that even though I was bright, I didn't think I was like specifically talented in a particular area. Like I was really good at maths, for instance, and I did maths for the maths. And I was the best in my middle school, but when it came to upper school, I was like third best or fourth best. And then like I wouldn't have held my own if I went to like Cambridge University. Or so I always thought that I was like pretty good, but not super good.
But how good were you at specifically, like if someone said 3 times 27 plus 10, like how fast could you calculate that?
91. Yeah, I don't know. It's when I was a kid, I was particularly good at that. Maybe after.
The reason I asked that was because my suspicion is you were probably incredibly good at that particular kind of thinking, which is these really fast, rapid relationships fitting together quickly, as not necessarily so much so like how calculus and intervals and blah, blah, blah fit together. Not saying you wouldn't be good at that, because your mind is going to be good at that anyways, but my guess is you were probably close to off the charts on the like, you know, quick, fast figuring something out accurately.
Damn. Oh, maybe not accurately, but around the ballpark. That's the good thing about poker. You never need to be spot on. You can just be like, this bet size feels kind of right. No one's going to tell me it's wrong. Some PO solver might tell me it's suboptimal, but they don't. Who knows? Like, that's not correct.
When I was learning poker, I was trying to like do the thing where it's like, okay, so here I would have 500 combos and I would drop 30% because of the way I need to be defending this spot. So that's going to leave me with 350. And then I'm going to take like the bottom 15% and balance and pick the best blockers from that. And I'm like trying to do all that in real time. And I'm like, this is fucking difficult. And I don't know how these guys are doing this. And I'm just like, they must just be fucking brilliant. And then I started watching your videos. I'm like, man, maybe they're not doing that. Maybe that was to do that.
I bet a lot of people would claim they do that. But after having conversations with like, one specific one I had recently, I was kind of like joking around with like Caxton, telling him just like, dude, why are you being so slow? This is probably why you guys don't get invited to private games, because it's like 20 seconds before like defending the big blind with like threes or something. And you know, it's, and I do respect that he's on a very high level, and this
Right.
the Adams kind of rebutted. It's like, you never know what's going on inside these people's heads.
Right.
Like maybe they're just thinking on such a high level. And then I think both of them, both Tim and Ike, were just like, and yeah, it's like, it's pretty incredible how long I spend calculating how big the pot is. Like a lot of my thinking time is just trying to do the maths. It's like, what the hell? Like when the curtains are revealed and behind it, it's just guys being like,
he's like, actually, my eyesight's just not that good. It's hard to tell how many chips are in there.
just trying to count it in front of him. So yeah, I forgot where I was going with that.
No,
Anyway,
well, you know, it's interesting because they're trying to construct an accurate way to evaluate the way they should play their hand, and that all starts with like the pot size and the hand you have, right? So you got to figure that out to start it. I guess that's what made it.
Before we carry on talking about poker, where are you with poker? I didn't actually know you're a poker player, to be honest.
Well, I'm not. I just like the theory of it. I always like studying like people that are super intelligent. When I was young, like my father figures were just like really brilliant people in their fields. The way that I wanted to learn a subject was just like, okay, who are like the 5 smartest people in that? Can I understand how their mind works, how they see it, why they see it that way?
That's actually exactly how I've been going about chess. I've just been watching Magnus Carlsen nonstop.
Yeah, so I had this theory that like, I don't think that I would ever be as good as any of these brilliant people, but my thinking was like, I could probably get closer than I think. And every time I tried to do that, I got like further than you would think I would in a shorter amount of time. Like Jay-Z raps without writing with pen and pad. And I heard that and I was like, I wonder, could I do that? And I didn't even rap. And I got really, really good at just like being able to rhyme in my head by practicing, because I just thought that's possible. The human brain can do it. What would that be like for me? Dude,
that's amazing. Do you still do that?
Of course. And I'm happy to do some raps for you. We can do them on the pod, but I also
I don't want to put you on the spot just in case it's like
no. I don't mind. Like I'll give you an example of one that I wrote. Okay, so I wrote this on a swing set like 14 years ago. And okay, so rappers on top, at the top is spinning positions quickly, and I'm scribbling written as synonyms for injury. Sentences, ripping tokens, say I'm jigger ridiculous, but I get you killed for 450s and get you to fold quickly, to flow intently. You can't up in me, this shit be spinning infinitely, hot shit, and Glock spit, lingering exhaust, but I squeeze off till my fingers are fucking exhausted, and it keeps going.
Did I hear a poker reference in there?
Yeah.
Nice.
So I, you know, and I studied Eminem too. So that's what a lot of the multi-syllable rhymes you were hearing in there was like.
I love how Eminem rhymes. And
isn't it so good? I'm not surprised you do, given how your mind works.
He's the fuck GTO kind of rapper. It's just like, well, that's how you meant to rhyme. But I think these two words can kind of like smoosh together. Have a whole thing going on. He's
so good at taking just like the between syllables and the middle syllables and assonance. He just does so many things that are so smart. And yeah, I'm not surprised that you like it, because I think I have, I mean, I'm not saying I have a great sense of it, but I think I have a decent appreciation for like how your mind works in that way.
Damn.
And I think, by the way, I think you have a beautiful mind. That's one of the things I wanted to reach out to you about.
Oh. Well, it's, I must say very quickly, this is the first conversation I've had in a long time where I've been the one asking fewer questions. And it's genuinely, whenever I meet new people, I can't stop myself. I'm just so curious about people. And you've actually out-questioned me. And I have all these questions, but you have all the good ones too. So I want to answer them and go down. It's an honor. I really connect with people that ask good questions.
Yeah, man, I'm all heart these days. I've had to learn, one of the things I want to talk to you about at some point is authenticity and the power of that. And, you know, when you're all heart, you sincerely are able to see someone and connect with them. If you have a connection, it'll happen. And a lot of that and I think you operate, I think you have a lot of heart. So I think that's probably where that's coming from.
Thanks, man. I asked the question over Instagram quite recently. It's like, what is the number one compliment that you wish you got more? What do you think yours is first?
Thanks for helping me.
Oh.
Probably.
Do you feel underappreciated in spots where you're helping people?
No, I just feel like my purpose is to help people. So like that would just be great.
Okay, cool.
No, I think I'm probably appropriately appreciated, which is, you know,
That's a good place to be in life.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but the one that I wrote something else to do with like my thoughts, but I think that was wrong. I actually think the one that I wish I got more, the one that I appreciate the most, is when people point out kindness in me, because it's something I had to work on so hard to get to the point where I could be like, I genuinely think I'm a very kind person now.
You radiate kindness and thoughtfulness. That's the other thing about you, is like you have thoughtfulness to you that I really admire that in men. So my measure of a man is like, how much good does he do and how much joy does he have? Like, I feel like you can kind of look at the joy as like his own self-actualization. Is he living for his purpose? And then you can look at like the good as just like, is he a loving person? You know, we love for our circle, and some people have bigger circles, but I sense that you're well on like the way in that journey of like being able to love and spread good and have joy. And the things that I see you like wrestling with, and the way that you approach your analysis to things, and just even your spiritual journey. I watched all your psychedelic video. It's a little unfair because I know some things about you just from having like seen your content that you might, you know, so, you know, I admire a lot of that. And I think that it's something that I've tried to emulate. Some things I want to do more like you, and some things I think that I see that where you could go next, maybe because I've done some of that stuff.
So just to clarify for anyone watching, so I just remember people are going to be watching this maybe. Who are you, and what do you do?
So my name's Tom Whigham. I'm an attorney in Florida, and I want to say that I can still be a good person. So I use that line because law and I have a complex relationship, but I feel more drawn to the general way that I should be helping people, and just living authentically, and kind of the radical power that has. And I want to kind of spread that that message. And I like working with high value people. So right now I coach a lot of people that coach other people, just interpersonally and emotionally. I do a lot of work with that. And so I've done a lot of different jobs.
Do I remember from one of our Facebook conversations something about helping men be more confident speaking to women?
Yes. Yeah. I have a dating group. It's got like 1,000 people on Facebook. It's called Self-Love Army.
Oh, okay. It's the Self-Help Army. I remember thinking that was a cool name.
And the idea is that men learn a really tough lesson early on, that like vulnerability is their weakness. And I believe that when vulnerability can become your strength, when you're far enough along on your self-actualization and you can embody your masculinity, that's like the most attractive you'll be. And people remember times they were vulnerable and it didn't work out for them in their relationships. And I want to say that's not because you were vulnerable. That's because of just where you were at in your development. And the vulnerability is actually very attractive. And so I want people to love themselves, be able to give love, and be able to receive love and feel worthy of it. And that's kind of what I'm talking about in that group.
Do you think that the ultimate goal is to be like ultimately vulnerable, or do you think that the optimal solution is to be vulnerable in positions that you're safe in, and more closed off or less open in positions where people aren't going to be reacting well to you? Because this is something I struggle with myself. It's like I always want to put myself in a vulnerable position. I love the feeling. I love getting people's feedback about who I am and what I'm like, and I love reflecting them back on themselves as well. But then if I put myself in like the poker world, where it's full of a lot of ego, a lot of like jostling to be alpha and things.
I understand your question. The answer that my brain immediately gives me is that there's a difference between vulnerability and intimacy. So vulnerability is giving. You give from a place of strength. You don't give to receive. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, intimacy is that two-way dynamic, and who you're intimate with should be a calculation of your relationship and your dynamic and their heart as well.
So you think you should aim to be as vulnerable as possible?
I think that when you're vulnerable from a place of strength, when you don't like live for comparison and you have detached from neediness, for example, you see when to give and when to hold in reserve. Mm-hmm. But even holding in reserve is done with love. You know, sometimes you need someone to emotionally invest in you a little more so they can trust you, so that you can actually bond with them more.
Yeah.
So sometimes holding things in reserve is actually from love.
Yeah.
So I think like authenticity should always be there, but that doesn't mean always just giving. And however, you will meet certain people you connect with where you can just flow immediately, unreservedly. I do
Yeah,
believe.
I've definitely had those experiences, and I guess that is the way that I was thinking about it before, just as like a balance, and not giving out too much of yourself straight away to a lot of people was something that I struggled with for quite a while, because I don't know, I have this like natural inclination to just trust people, and it's slowly going the more I get got by people or
Right.
society or whatever.
So that actually comes down to what I think, and I don't know if you want to talk about this on here, but like boundaries.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like part of our masculine identity is understanding our boundaries. Now, what I love about vulnerability is when we put ourselves out there, we know how we really feel. So we really know when someone crosses our boundaries. But if we don't have a firm sense of our boundaries and we don't stand up for them, then it's going to lead to a lot of pain, right? So one of the things that men aren't encouraged to have in this society these days is strong boundaries. We feel like it's antagonistic or it's going to lead to confrontation. The irony is it's way less likely to lead to confrontation when you say this is how the fuck it is and this is how I want to be treated with me, and you're kind of firm and hard about that, but you're doing it from a loving place. You know, like it's just like it's a leader gorilla or something would do. Like, you know, you don't cross his boundaries, but he's got love. And when you can embody that, it really prevents a lot of the fuckery that you're dealing with. You've just dealt with a lot of sociopaths and kind of broken people that are really good at giving pockets of themselves, and it's real in the moment. It reminds me of when I interact with drug addicts. They couldn't mean it more in the moment, but it couldn't matter less the next day.
yeah.
People that are empaths like you're going to be deceived by the people who mean it so much in the moment, but don't have an attachment to that the next day, because you don't work that way. You are what you are.
Ironically, that is actually probably like a, actually that's not a good description of how I used to be, but I used to be quite sociopathic. I used to be a compulsive liar. I used to just pull the wool over literally everyone's eyes that I spoke to. Almost everything that I said was inauthentic because
Yes.
I thought it was funny. But now, ironically, still that is exactly what happens. Like, for instance, there was this woman I was meant to be working with my charity. She was like in the inner circle, super trusted her, never saw anything bad about what she was doing or saying. Like, a couple of other people said they had like weird feelings about her, but I was like, I'm pretty sure she's great. I haven't seen any logical evidence to suggest she's not. And then I ended up lending her 40K for like a charity business thing. And yeah, I'm not probably not seeing that 40K. I mean, I'm gonna sue her eventually, but yeah, that's not coming back. So yeah,
Well, luckily you met an attorney. I'll give you some legal advice off the air. You know, generally speaking, not specific, but
yeah, I was actually juggling about. I wonder what you think about this. I was juggling about not suing her or suing her, and the reason I didn't want to is because she needs it a lot more than I do, even though my money's going to charity, so it's a bit of a weird spot like that. But the reason I've decided to is because I really do believe there's something profound about setting your energy as a person who can't be fucked over.
yeah, it's a boundary. It's standing up for your boundaries. Now, here's the deal. You weigh that against the emotional drain / attention drain that will come from a lawsuit. I know that the finances behind suing her won't be outrageous for you, like in that sense.
Yeah.
So that is a big stressor that people might have to consider that you won't. But there is a cost to, so here's my advice to you in that sense. If you can do it from a place of non-resentment, but because it's for your boundaries, do it. If it's because you feel like it's the principle and it's not from a place of resentment, do it. But don't cultivate resentment. Understand what the fuck happened. Understand why she did it. The less that you can like judge it and the more you can understand it, the more free of it you'll be. And then you can just make the right decision based on your purpose and your moral code and your sense of who you are. And I do believe like it's important for you, from just having briefly talked about this, that you stand up in this way, because like that's been the issue, that it's been one of your challenges, is like coming into that and how these people have treated you.
Yeah, and I really do believe that if I stood up to her, then my energy would change. People would feel me differently, and they'll be less likely to try and mess with me.
Yes, and you will embody yourself more, because you're actually really becoming yourself. Like that is something that's important to you, but you've avoided action, possibly out of fear, possibly out of anxiety, and now you know, I say the opposite of fear is love. So now you're doing it. You can do this from a place of love, like of, you know, confronting your fear on this. You know, if we have fear over confrontation, for example.
Do you ever have resentment towards people that do bad things to your loved ones?
Man, I'm a drug addict, so I try not to have any resentments if I can manage it, you know.
Which drugs?
Heroin was a big one for me.
Damn.
Xanax was a big one. So I just was using
What were
drugs
you
for
running,
peace.
what were you running away from to be addicted to heroin?
No, I don't necessarily think I was running away from anything. I think it just was a way um, to feel peaceful because of the way that the mechanisms work. So originally, maybe let me not say that. Originally, I think intense anxiety from my profession. Like the first year on my job, it was not what I expected. I was like representing child rapists and different, just horrible shit. And it was kind of stressing me out. And I think that substances and lots of casual sex and things like that were a way for me to feel peaceful for a second.
To me, that would fall under the umbrella of escapism.
Yeah. Yeah, I see what you mean. But I actually also think that the use was a cause. So, and it's like a mirage, you know, like you're not actually escaping the drug. For me, the drugs were the reality once I became an addict. Like once that switch flipped and I was using it for peace, like the drugs were the reality, and my non-drug life was like the kind of the illusion at that point.
Did your rational mind keep up with that? Did your rational mind think, okay, this is genuinely the reality, or was there dissonance there?
So I didn't know we were going to talk about drugs, but I'm not a super expert on this. I'm just from personal experience. The psychological erosion of the way that drugs work is something like this. I started seeking pleasure instead of joy. So instead of doing things that would make me happy, I did things that were pleasurable constantly.
That's a really cool sentence. Pleasure instead of joy. I think that's a really key distinction that a lot of people don't really look at. Like if you ask someone to give up smoking, they're like, no, I enjoy it. It's like, I see what you mean, but it's more like it causes you that short dopamine rush of pleasure.
Correct. It's a miserable pleasure. Yeah. You know, at the end of the month, you're going to be miserable, but you'll have been pleasurable the entire time. Yeah. And so like, you know, as that's going on, you just become pleasure seeking instead of joyful. And it eventually like affects your spiritual fitness and your ability to form relationships in meaningful ways. And, you know, I forget exactly what we were, talking about resentments for people that, for my loved ones. We can do I'm happy to do a separate on that other stuff, but I want to answer that question. So my dad got AIDS from a blood transfusion when I was 4. And before I was born, he died when I was 4, pardon me.
Because of a bad nurse or something?
So he had to have a surgery, and my uncle said, look, use my blood. We don't want there to be any issues with the blood. And the hospital said, no, that will bias the blood supply. So we're going to give him blood. It'll be fine. And then they gave him HIV.
Dang.
And for a long time, and my dad was just like all heart, just an awesome guy. Just people met him, you know, 10 and 20 years later and had just an awesome impression of him. And he's a big man, like 6'2", 240, and just athletic, and set a bunch of records, and he's loud, and he was an attorney, and he was just a loving guy. So he's just a delightful human. And so it was just like devastating for my family and his brothers and sisters. And he had like the biggest funeral in the history of this small town, and they named like a football stadium after him, which in the early 80s, I guess it was the late 80s at that point, the way that AIDS was and HIV was in the South in the United States, that was a big deal because a couple counties over, they burned this HIV infected person's house down and made him run out of the community. And in my dad's community, they embraced him and they raised a bunch of money. But so talking about that, I was angry as fuck as a kid, and I had a lot of resentment over that, as you can imagine. And that caused me to get into a lot of conflict with people. So I was in a lot of conflict a lot.
So what kind of people were you conflicting against? Like authority or?
Authority, yeah. Think about like, so the doctors are supposed to know what they're doing, and they killed my dad. So I'm already kind of have the wool pulled over my eyes, off my eyes when it comes to, you know, seeing that authority is an aura, not necessarily an accuracy, you know?
When you're young, you can't understand results orientation. You can't just be like, oh, it was like 1 out of 1,000 or 1 out of 100 or whatever. You're just like, that happened once and it destroyed my life once. So
to me, like, I remembered, like, so I remember being in his arms. He had big, strong arms, you know, and like, I remember feeling like he loved me, and it's sad that wasn't there. And so the pain of just like not having my dad, someone's like, hey, we're going to put you in timeout, or we're going to like, you know, take away this privilege from you. And you're like, well, that doesn't hurt me. I've had real pain. So you just can't ever listen. You don't understand a lot, but you know that like the way that they normally try to control behavior won't work. So for me, like a lifelong battle with being able to like release and let go of resentments and connect with my heart. Because I also always had a big heart, but I was an angry child to a man, you know? I was loving as hell. Like I would always want to help people. When I was in school, the way that they actually got me to behave was they let me teach special needs children. So when I was in first grade and kindergarten, I could go teach special needs kids. And if I acted up, they would take away my ability to go work with them.
That's
I
interesting.
would leave my class and go help others. And when they took my ability to help others away from me, I would behave.
How would you misbehave if you were misbehaving?
Call out, answers, yell, just like frustrated, just be like, I'm ready for this to be done. Just not listen. Like, oh, you can't do that, really? Because I feel like doing it, so I'm going to do it.
Fair. I was definitely I had very different proclivities when I was a kid, but I had the same disdain for authority, which I haven't quite worked out where that came from. Sorry, I'm echoing a bit. Have you?
I think it's because, like I said, it's an aura, not an accuracy. And your brain can sense the inaccuracy behind it. You just could see the flaws in it. You knew that it was puffery. You know what puffery is, right?
No, I don't know that word.
I mean, I don't even know if I'm fucking using it right. I was trying to say like they're puffed up, you know?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I'm like, you know what that word means. Wait, fuck, maybe I don't know what it means. But I think what it meant is, you know, just the sense of just like being self-inflated, and you can sense it because you're insightful as shit even as a child. When you have a mind like yours, you know that like when someone says because I said so, that's not fucking good enough sometimes.
Can I ask a very tangential question? When you speak very highly of people as you are to me now, and I do the same, and I mean it very genuinely, because, and I know you do too, because you just see the good in people. You can tell when a compliment's authentic. Do you run into the problem of ever creating a difficult power dynamic where it's like you're really interested in the person that you're speaking to and they're not particularly interested in you?
So I think that if we meet in a male-female dynamic, honestly, for the most part, no, because people, when it is genuine, there may be other things that are leading to the power dynamic happening that way that I'm happy to talk about. But the genuine recognition of someone's talent said from a place of respect should never come at your expense. Like, I'm not lesser because I see that you're amazing. That's one of the biggest things that you notice in really talented individuals is a lot of times they really want their reality to be fully accepted, which means they're going to tell you about their greatness in some ways, not necessarily in a bragging way. They're just going to say how the fuck it is for them. And people that are threatened by that are going to miss the opportunity to learn or experience the beauty of that person, because they don't understand that person doesn't mean that at their expense. That's just them embodying what they are.
So I agree with that, but let's say you're in a situation with a girl and or a guy, but let's say a girl for now, and the conversation has gone just like you ask them loads of questions, being like, wow, you're so interesting like this, and I really see deep into your mind like that. That's really cool. They feel good about themselves. If that goes on for like 20 minutes, you've now had a situation where you've complimented her, and if she's not reciprocating that, then there is a complete imbalance, and that can't escape that.
I would say that if you exist sexually with her, that that the dynamic going on for 20 minutes, you would also inject sexuality in that interaction, which mitigates that profoundly.
Which may was
that sexuality profoundly mitigates the power dynamic you're talking about. Asexual investment in that way, you're right, it does create a power dynamic, but when you inject sexuality into it as well and sexual intent, that brings the balance back to equal.
That's such a funny way of talking about sexuality. That's so interesting. Do you see it as a goal, or okay? Let me rephrase this.
You have to show sexual intent to embody what you're feeling. If you're feeling it towards her, if you're not doing that, you're hiding something, and that also creates a power imbalance.
Agreed. How much is sleeping with people or having sex with beautiful women a goal for you?
Low, to me. I write in my group that sex with porn stars and playmates is the exact same as any other woman. And it's right. And it's true. And they're the same as any other woman. And I do that not, and like, you know, some people would even critique making that distinction, because when you really understand women as emotional beings, like they're okay. The way that I say it is, when you're worthy of the love of one woman, you're worthy of the love of all women. And when you know that, you can operate at your maximum attractiveness. What makes you worthy of the love is being trustworthy, strong, sexual, dynamic, dominant, meaning emotionally impactful, that you know, she can see the world differently through your reality and see herself differently by being with you. That impact you have, you know, that that's attractive and worth loving. That's the same for any woman. It doesn't matter whether she's a friggin' model or she's just an awesome, cool chick you met at a coffee shop, or everything in between. And women love men that embody that and are that. And it's pretty universally attractive. Even if they're with someone, they respect you when you exist in that space usually. So that's the first thing. Second thing, really, really gorgeous women. Anyone who's using it as like a notch, or if something is fucking inflating their ego. And my caution to them is that when you're living from ego gratification and pleasure, you're going to constantly need ego hits and to be happy, and you're going to be empty between the ego hits. So I've known men that, and I myself have been, had prey to this, fell prey to this at some point, that will date, you know, 5, 6, 7, 8 women and have several women at their house at a time and things like that. And my question to them usually is like, well, but are they happy? Are they deriving satisfaction from each of those individual relationships? And when the answer to that is no, you have a big problem.
Yeah. And
so
when the answer is yes, I feel like
they're full of shit a lot of times.
Yeah.
They're full of shit and they're in denial. Yeah, you can have, when you have a full activation of love as a man, you can love more than one person. You can love several women, and I've experienced that, and it's been real for me. So that is possible.
I for sure love my exes. What about you? Not that I would fantasize about being with them or I choose to be with them. I just have that unconditional love.
Yeah, I think that if love disappeared because if love disappeared because I was not around someone, if they hadn't done any kind of like horrible things, then what worth is my love? Like if it's just conditioned on our proximity and our sex together, it's not a very meaningful love in my opinion. You know, like if you meant something to one another and you had heart, but it can change, right? Like the attachment to that can change and how you identify with it. But yeah, I think you're right.
So you definitely got a lot of this stuff down pretty damn pat, in my opinion, on paper. How does it translate to practice? Because I feel like I have a reasonable amount of insight into the way of like how to have a healthy relationship, but occasionally, if something like when I've just come out of an abusive relationship, and when I was at my lowest, I would fall privy to that idea of like, oh, hot girls likes me, so now I feel really good. And like subconsciously, I might push that a bit further than I ought to. So do you have those low moments?
Not really, but I'll tell you why. You're in the abusive relationship, you had an erosion of your boundaries.
Yep.
That was causing you not to respect yourself. So you were having trouble respecting yourself for loving that person. Anytime you can't respect yourself for the feelings you have for someone, if you feel ashamed of the feelings you have for someone, it's going to weaken your masculine identity and it's going to make you uncomfortable. And that's going to make you potentially flee towards ego as like a relief from that. But you were just in something that was really unhealthy. And it's because your love was out of proportion to your boundaries.
Yeah, that makes sense. So do you think, I want to get your opinion on this. So like this person, she's called Hannah. We're really open about this kind of stuff, so she won't mind me speaking about it. She's actually come back to England in 2 days. She has, throughout the whole of our relationship, almost been abusive, but to different levels. Like it started off non-abusive, but as soon as she got comfortable around me, all of the childhood shit just spilled out. You might already know this if you watch my YouTube. And then once we recognized it as abusive and we broke up the first time, then it slowly started to go down and down and down, and it's getting to the point where it's definitely lower. And I would say it's crossed the line of being non-abusive. So I know that if I were to give, and I have advised a lot of people in abusive relationships, which is one of the gifts that have come out of this, the ability to. I know if I were looking at someone else in this situation, I'd be like, that seems very, very trepidatious and dubious, because it's very rare that you can be with someone that's abused you and still be okay with it. But I actually personally feel like I can. I feel like I have forgiven her at least, maybe half at least now. So, out of your experience, have you ever seen things like that work?
Well, first of all, it's good that you've been able to understand her enough to forgive in some ways. I would say understand and forgive yourself too. Second of all, people that have abusive tendencies like that, when they love someone, they do make radical changes for that person for a time. But the deep core of a person, if they don't process it, then a lot of times it just becomes band-aids over like a shotgun wound. And you never know how that's going to manifest, because you're going to touch another part of her intimacy that, the way that trauma works in the brain is it creates these like grooves, like axons, dendrites, myelin sheathing neurons. They think of it like a soldering iron. It burns like 3 holes and 3 lines in your head, and like all the emotional energy goes through those 3 channels. So all this emotional energy that would normally be spread out in your mind is always getting triggered through this trauma pathway. It's always being filtered through her trauma. So until she like rewires her brain fully, you're going to be constantly at risk for that, and you're not going to be able to predict it. And you deserve security in your feelings in a way that she can't provide, regardless of her intention and her desire. My advice would be give that tons of time and space and revisit it in several years after she's done a lot of work on rewiring the full machinery.
We'll see.
But
yeah,
I mean, look,
definitely the similar kind of ilk of advice that I would give people, but at the same time, knowing what I've been through and the trauma that I experienced and the person that I became, like a really evil person, and knowing that I'd say quickly in comparison to most people, managed to get to the point where I'm not anymore, and I feel myself as a kind person. I would say she has shown signs of being even quicker at evolving than I was.
Yeah. Hey, look, the other option is, if you're going to work with her with eyes wide open and stronger boundaries, that you have very clear ways to communicate things that are potentially affecting your boundaries, and that there's ways that she has to treat you, and there's things that she needs to be doing that like hold her accountable, whether it's like therapy or what have you. Yeah. I mean, in that sense, because like, yes, of course you can love someone and stay by their side while they process their traumas. Of course you can. Any individual person doing that, the odds may be against it, may not. I mean, the whole premise of effective therapy is that people can heal and change. It's a question of fit as well. Like my only reason for giving the other advice wasn't that this wouldn't be possible to work. Of course this could work. It's that you are the what do they call it? The opportunity cost. Yep. Is that you could have incredibly loving and awesome relationships with most awesome women, like most women that are ready to receive you fully, that won't have these hurdles. So unless you feel particularly drawn to engaging in what could be a long, drawn out and potentially fruitless endeavor, but at the same time, like that's what love kind of does pull us towards sometimes. So just make sure you're having people that you can rely on to give you advice and give you feedback and help you keep your perspective. Yeah. I would go to therapy together. But I mean, I'm not an expert in that in specific, right? I'm more just like a general dynamic guy. Yeah,
for sure. It's very hard without being able to look in someone's life to give generic advice. So I think you did extremely well there.
Yeah, and I didn't mean, one thing I want to say about that is I don't want to diminish. Sometimes I can be a little cavalier in how I talk about love and relationships and things like that. I don't want to diminish its importance. I think it's pretty sacred. It's just that sometimes we have to make hard choices.
100%. I'm definitely still making that choice. I would say that I'm in this is the pinnacle of the point I've ever got with how good I am with my boundaries and communicating and keeping my boundaries set. And I have a lot of good people around me. So I'm feeling pretty good about it. But,
bro, you just being able to talk about this I'm very impressed by it. It takes a lot of strength to say what you're saying right now, bro.
Yeah, I'm feeling kind of hurt, but I don't know. I love it. I love the facing. This is a difficult thing to talk about. This is a very personal thing to talk about. Let's do it.
Yeah, dude, remember I said earlier, man, fear is the opposite of love. And the fear here is that you're confronting a fear by doing this, it sounds like to me. So, you're embracing your love. There's no question you're going from your heart here. And with eyes wide open this time, it sounds like, which is what you need. Um,
the hardest thing I found about this spot, and I don't know if you can relate to this, is getting myself, this is whilst I was in the abusive relationship, getting myself to the point where I knew I would be okay and I felt okay and I was super okay if she and I didn't last. That for me was the absolutely not hardest thing.
Not hardest. Okay, I thought you said not for a second. Yes.
No.
Well, I have a theory, and this is pretty common in guys that do this and coach, is a lot of times we attract our level.
Yep.
So I'm not gonna say this about you, but my suspicion is there could be abandonment or intimacy issues around a feeling of worthiness of being loved or self-worth in a deep part of you or from a childhood.
Yep.
And so you could reflect someone that also has a similar struggle. Or just like you said, you can relate to her journey in some deep way from having been in the past,
Yeah.
So, that we a lot of times we pull our reflection in those ways. So it's something to be mindful of. But the good news of that is as you change and grow, people that are in relationships with you can also ride the wave the other way. That sounds like woo-woo a little bit. And then you're like, wait a minute, when I'm depressed, my partner's depressed, or like when I'm happy, they're happy. So it makes a lot of sense too. Like there's a lot of feedback loops between people.
Yeah, I think that's one of the problems with this industry, whatever industry it is that it sounds just like something out of a cheesy like 1970s commercial. But it's genuinely legit advice that a lot of people don't know and you never get taught at school or anything like that.
I know. And it's ridiculous to say like you're a dating coach. But luckily women think it's interesting and it gives you a chance to like talk about meaningful, interesting things. But it is ridiculous.
Women that get kind of competitive when you tell them that you're a dating coach because they must be like, well, this guy must have so many women wanting to be with him. Or do you get something a bit like they want to just fuck with you and be like, no way, come on, that's such a stupid thing, and like want to reject you because of it?
If you're normal, is that it's normal for you to, so first of all, if you love women, women can sense that. Like if you actually appreciate women, a lot of guys think they love women, but they're scared of women or they're mad at them.
Love them at the bed.
Yeah, but like they're actually afraid of them or they resent them because like they want pussy and they can't get it from them and they feel like it's power and stuff. And so like they get very manipulative. But if you love women for real and you see them for like what they are, you see their fear and their ability to like they love and want to love and just see the beauty of all that and just like know their heart. And you just like women and how they hint at things or suggest things and just their energy. A woman can understand how a man like that would love and date multiple women and how women would love a man like that. So if that's normal to you, it's normal to them. If it's not normal to you, it's not normal to them. And what's normal to you can be so normal to other people that it can go about as far out as you want to take it.
So assuming people are watching this, there's a very large percentage of guys, because my audience is a large percentage of guys, because poker, and a large percentage of those people will probably be unsuccessful with women just because of the rate of distribution, and it just happens that way. How much do you put this down? And this is what a lot of men will fall back on. How much do you put down unsuccessful men in terms of relationships, romance, and sex down to their physical attractiveness?
How much success is based, do you evaluate from a woman's beauty, you said?
No, from a man's beauty, from like how much do you think
how much it looks in a man matter?
Yeah.
Okay, so the aura of your appearance matters. Like, do you have your style, your sense of grooming? Like, are your fucking nails clean? A woman can, like, how are you going to finger a woman with long nails? Like, what are you doing? Or dirty nails, right? Like, what does that say about you if you have dirty nails, but you look all nice, but your nails are dirty and long? Like, this guy might not be as put together as he seems. Women. Okay, so prefacing this, men are very manipulative towards women, and women are used to being tricked. So a nice guy who just thinks he's into her and trying to agree with her to get laid, he wants pussy just as bad as anybody else, but he's not going to show his sexual intent. He's going to kind of keep it close to his vest. That's a lying manipulation, but that guy's trying to get laid by being harmless. Luckily, that doesn't work very often. You don't get fucked for being harmless.
I've seen so many people try it, and I've never seen it work.
And then they get mad at the woman like it's the woman's fault. It's like, bitch, you were completely harmless. You didn't even really show yourself to her. So of course she didn't fuck you. The other side of men is like really aggressive. Basically, the woman will fuck that man and then feel bad about herself afterwards. She'll regret it. And even if it was exciting for a little, in a way, it was like he basically just manipulated her into thinking he had feelings he didn't, and she regrets it. So what's the middle ground, right? Like you just are what you are, you own what you have, you don't exaggerate your feelings, you say what they really are, and then you have sexual intent towards her, and you go from there. Two breakthroughs that men need to have: women are just as sexual and more sexual than men, but they're manipulated. Imagine if you went your whole life wanting water, and you were thirsty as fuck, and every man said, I've got water, here's a picture of it back in my house, I'm going to give it to you. And and then but you're just like dying of thirst, and every man keeps promising it to you, and then like they don't really give it to you. When they give it to you, it's like small and salty, and it's not what they promised, or it turns like needy, and that's just, to me, that's an analogy for love. Like women want love, and men are always like, yeah, of course I'll love you, and then like it's never what they promised. So they get really good at seeing behind our bullshit. And they have these ways that they test you as a man to see if you're as confident as you say you are. You're all this confidence. Well, let me ask you something that's going to poke behind you and see how you react to it. Do you react at all? How do you react to these things? So grooming matters because it's a part of that. Are you what you say you are? Women don't care as much how you look. They just want a physical man with heart and mind. And that physical man can be a big man. They love big men. Women love to feel small, bro. If you're a big fucking guy, own that you're a big fucking guy. Be a loving fucking bear of a man. They will love you. But if you love you, but it matters in the sense that, are you a part of what you really are and owning your identity? So looks do matter, but it's not because, look, dude, if you're an objectively just gorgeous guy with abs and a beautiful face, yeah, you'll get sex from women that you wouldn't otherwise get. But that doesn't mean the inverse isn't true, that you can be someone who would be less physically attractive and not get incredible success with the people that you're meant to connect with.
Cool. Yeah, I got two things to add to what you're saying, I guess, and one maybe.
Sorry if that was long-winded, by the way.
No, I love it. It's definitely your area of expertise. So I'm drinking it in. Just as like two examples of what you were describing as like when you're comfortable around women, you love them, you're not trying to be too like manipulative, you're not trying to be too aggressive. Is that my two most I'd say passionate relationships, and the two that give me the most joy, but the most testing as well. The first one started with this girl, I guess I shouldn't say her name. She described herself as asexual, so she just didn't want to have sex with people, as because she had sexual trauma when she was younger, and super fine. When I fell in love with her basically super quickly, when we had this conversation, first thing I said is like, that's super okay, we can have a relationship where we never have sex. I'm completely okay with that. And I knew it would be challenging, but I was ready to do that for love. Within 3 weeks, she started getting extreme sexual attraction to me, and we started having a very gradual but slow sexual relationship. And I think that if I'd gone in with a false intention, and I said, yeah, we can be asexual, and then kind of just like, I'll get her eventually, I think she would have picked up on that. She has an extremely sensitive people.
100% she would have picked up on that.
Yeah. And I think that's what a lot of people don't tend to realize. You have to be honest with yourself to be honest with the person, and to be honest with yourself, you have to learn so much about yourself. So any of these things that people want, whether it's money or women or whatever, you have to start with you, and you have to start looking inside yourself and go, like, this is where I'm doing stuff wrong, this is where I'm fucking up. Just love yourself and carry on. Second person.
Paul, can we pause real quick? Did you help her process the sexual assault trauma?
Yeah, we spoke.
Yeah, off the air, I want to tell you, that's one of the things that I gave a speech on last year. And I've done some really good healing work and I've talked to a lot of experts on this, because I found that almost every woman I dated was telling me they had sexual assault trauma. Like on our first date, it was just something I would just bring up.
Literally, like all of the people I fall in love with, and I've had it myself, kind of, not super bad, but it's when you're drawn towards, I don't know why I'm drawn towards them, but I feel like they're drawn towards me and probably towards you, because it's the exact opposite of someone that's going to sexually assault them. It's someone that is so open. If they say, or even if they don't say, even if they have slight discomfort, you'll feel it, and like, well, we need to stop, even in the like that most passionate moment. And I think people can really feel that.
That's fucking powerful, dude. And that's beautiful. And off the air, I don't want to share the script publicly because it is powerful and it's something that men could use to make women attach to them in a way that's bad. But I would love to share with you for sure. And then the second story you had.
Yeah, the second one. So that's Hannah, the one that is coming over in a couple of days. When I first started speaking to her, I quickly, within a day, it was the most fucking insane thing, which I fell in love with basically instantly. Like our souls just knew each other. And within a day, she was like, by the way, I've actually got a boyfriend. And I was like, oh, yeah, fine, I'll be a friend. And then it turned out an abusive boyfriend. I was like, oh, do you have anyone to talk to about any of this? Like, nope. I was like, okay then. I'll be your friend. Like, I'm super okay with being your friend. It was the most difficult thing, one of the most difficult things I've ever gone through. I had to be okay with basically falling in love with this person while she was kind of falling in love with me, but also with this guy that was like seriously to sit her through it and genuinely mean when I said, I don't have the intention of being with you. I'm going to help you. If your choice is to repair this relationship with this guy, I'm going to talk you through how it might be best to do that. And maybe we can talk about your boundaries at the same time. And she ended up leaving him and phoning me and just being like, yeah, I've run away from him. Can we meet somewhere? Like, can you help? And I flew straight to Florida from Vegas, and we fell in love. We've been together ever since.
Yeah, you were safety from the storm. And the thing is, she felt like she could be her full self with you. The problem was at that point, she wasn't fully self-actualized and healed. So her full self was a fucking torrential, abusive storm. But you made her so comfortable with you that she's like, well, fuck it. I'm going to just be it all, baby. Here it is.
That is exactly what happens.
Oh, good. Can you stay a little closer to the mic? Because I'm worried the audio is a little low from your end for the last little bit. Yeah, that's better for sure. Cool. Hopefully people can catch all that, but if not, fuck them.
Yeah, fuck them.
So you're exactly right, and both of those represent, in my opinion, powerful owning of your reality, which is that you're a man of heart and you saw value in that and you represent yourself authentically. Some men wouldn't have made the same choices, but I think that you were being true to yourself in some very real, powerful ways there. The cool thing about authenticity is it's very much like poker. The closer you get to the right decision, like the better results are, but it's always going to be a process for us too, because we have to, like you said, know ourselves and love ourselves, man. To really embody your full value, you don't just know yourself, you have to love yourself. And when you know that you're willing to confront fear, which is different than anxiety, right? Like I have anxiety, but I really don't have a lot of fear. And so when you're confronting your fears, in your heart, you have this core self-esteem and confidence. Like, I don't let my anxieties stop me from doing things. When you know that about yourself, when you know that if I add in simple habits each day, I can focus on that instead of things that make me anxious. When you are just living the right kind of life and you believe in yourself, when you're with a woman, that comes out of you. And then you combine that with good intention towards her, like with a giving or a loving energy and a sexual intent. It's probably, I would say that's peak attractiveness. And so guys that are worried about all this other shit, I tell them, what are you actually fucking offering? And then I would love to ask you a question after this, but what are you actually offering besides your dick? Like, okay, every guy's offering his dick. What are you offering? To buy her some stuff? Every guy will buy her stuff and offer his dick. What are you inside yourself? What emotional reality are you offering her? What can she learn about herself from being with you? What leadership are you showing? Are you taking the initiative and showing vulnerability so she can be vulnerable? Can she trust you? Women want a man who's trustworthy, is who he says he is, does what he says he'll do. You can be the most badass motherfucking, pick a random job that someone might condescend to or just think is average. But you own that that's your fucking job and you live your life for your reasons and you own your reality. That's fucking incredibly attractive. Now, are you going to be as attractive as LeBron James or Leonardo DiCaprio, who also owns his reality but is also Leonardo DiCaprio? No, you're not. But you don't need to be as attractive as these people. You just need to be above a threshold. You don't need to be 100 when the threshold's 37 because most men are at a 5. You know, you just need to be a 38. Get yourself to the level you need to be. If you're not offering that value package from who you are as a man in your life and your decisions and your wisdom and your heart, work on that shit, you know, and that can include physical stuff too. So I guess that's like my final cap on all that bullshit.
I would probably like balance that with a bit of like, not that I'm saying you're not compassionate, because I think you're extremely compassionate, but I think if I were just like an ugly kid watching this, I might feel a bit like, but it's so cool to make people, because like when I was younger, I was the nut low. I don't know if you see my video on this. I was the absolute bottom of the class in attractiveness. And you know, there's some pretty unattractive people in the class. Really
I think you're handsome,
dude. Yeah, I think I've grown into my looks really well. Actually, I'm really happy with how I look for the first time in a long time. Maybe like.
Well, I'm happy with how you look too. So good.
Oh, dude, amazing. So being that attractive, it gave me, and I really was. It gave me an insight into what it's like just have something so physically wrong with you that people automatically perceive everything you do, everything you say as lesser.
Is it as weird as like a giant back tattoo of freedom from the known? Is that because you know, that's not, you know, that'll stay there for life too, you know? It's not, is it a huge deformity, like a massive back tattoo?
Freedom from the known. The known what?
Freedom from the known, baby.
I don't get it.
We can talk about it sometime.
Okay. Yeah, kind of like that, except it was all over my face.
Acne. Was it acne?
No, it was on my face.
Really? Okay. Okay. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. You know, when you have the belief in your attractiveness from your eyes and it radiates from your heart, is there like I said, you know, you might not ever be as attractive as someone who's all of those things and also gorgeous, but you can still be attractive, right? Like, so a lot of women are going to be, even if they're not physically attracted to you. Okay, that's the other thing. Women can be not physically attracted to you initially, and then come upon their physical attraction to you as they come to love you as a man. Yep. And how you make them feel and your energy. So guys hearing this, all you got to do is just go be an awesome self-actualized guy. Come on, what's hard about that? You know, just it's like a lifetime of working on it. Let's do it. Easy.
Yeah, and here's something that's like a pretty wavy metaphysical touch on that. I genuinely think that our physical attractiveness is somewhat within control. Obviously not absolutely, but I do believe, seeing as all of our cells replace themselves after like 13 years or something, I do believe that things like kindness, for instance, turn people more attractive, like genuinely, objectively, physically attractive. If you just saw them on a screen. I think that confidence turns people more attractive. I think that being tough turns people more attractive. You see it in their jaw when they turn tough. Like when people come back from war, there's shit going on in their face, but there's also like toughness in their jaw. And I also believe that manifesting this, and this is really wavy, so skeptical and like rationalist, whatever, turn it off for a second. That if you genuinely...
Wait, what did you just say? I'm sorry, the volume cut off.
Sorry, yeah, I was saying that if someone is like a skeptic or a rationalist, just like turn off at this point. But I genuinely very fully believe that you can manifest your own reality. So if you say something is true, it becomes truth. I think it's one of the laws of the universe. And I think if you look at yourself in the mirror and say, I am becoming more and more beautiful by the day. I'm a beautiful human being. I'm physically gorgeous. I do believe that there is a genuine shift in someone's face. And looking back at how I looked even like 3 years ago, I think there's a huge difference in just doing these things. So I do believe that even though the best thing to do is work on yourself, I think there are also supplementary things you can do for your physical attractiveness.
There are probably, I think you're right, bro. And I hadn't thought of that in ways that you just made me think, but there are probably muscles in the face that work or relax based on how attractive you feel. Yeah, like even just because micro expressions are what people pick it up on, and they're these little like quick things. So I wouldn't be surprised if you're exactly right. And secondly, you should look healthy or so confident that you're able to disregard your health and it doesn't matter for you. in a way. And then the woman's like, well, that's interesting that he's that confident when he's just, so like, you know, there's just so many levels to it that are fun when you just start loving yourself and seeing what's possible, practicing this stuff, communicating well. Let's, if you don't, well, dude, I'm sensitive of your time now, actually. Fuck 1 p.m.
Fuck 1 p.m. I don't know how long we've been doing this, but let's go for like another 10 minutes and we'll just do a round two.
Okay, let's fucking do it. So I wanted to tell you that I love the example that you're setting with what you're doing, and the like, I want to have a world where men are just loving and authentic and doing good. And I think that you're giving people, do you believe that coaching people in poker and giving them that ability to do that and play it well is helping with that? Are you able to give people freedom from the teaching that you're doing?
Yeah, for sure. And I'm being very, very selective with who I coach. So for instance, there are the 3 people that I just came back from Ireland, so I'm coaching them for free. It's George and Adam and Anna. And they are 3 very spiritual, very good, very trustworthy people who just want to do good in the world. And I know that I have the ability, and they have the cognitive ability and the talent to be able to get to the point where they're millionaires. I truly believe that.
Oh shit, that's amazing.
Yeah, and I've already done that with one person, my best friend Ben, and he's now a millionaire. You know, he's got loads.
Hey, shout out to Ben, the millionaire.
Ben, he's absolutely crushed it. I'm so fucking happy for him, and he's a good person, and that is significant good energy going into the world because he has loads of power now. He has loads, like when you have money, if you want to have power, you can have power.
Yeah, you can make a difference.
He cares about the ocean, and he cares about fucking trees, and he cares about people, and that is.
You empowered a good one, and now he can do it. It's like I always say, man, his good becomes your good. You know what I mean? In small ways, like when you give someone else the ability to have freedom and liberation and open them up, and then they go do good, it's a little bit your good. And in some ways, when they affect you, your good now becomes a little bit theirs.
That's interesting.
That's why I call it self-love army, because I want to like build that momentum, you know?
Yeah, it really does. It does like ripple out exponentially, the goodness. Like just one drop of good, it causes like 10 more drops. You know? You just have to be that drop.
It's fucking awesome.
Can I ask a question, actually?
Well, can I say?
Yeah, you go.
So it reminds me of what we just talked about with the poker. It reminds me a lot of our conversation about attractiveness, where it's like, you're raising these people to be millionaires, but to be successful in poker and get some extra freedom from it, there's levels along the way that are still beneficial. You know, at the lower levels, it would still be really good. And attractiveness is the same way, you know, like our conversation, getting to the top is great, but just being up on that spectrum is still gonna be better for you than not. When you're a winning player, you're making a lot extra money. And so that, I just wanted to tie that back into that. What were you gonna ask me? I'm sorry.
Yeah. And to add on that, the journey for poker, and I believe for like being a good and attractive person, is almost better than being at the top. I think for poker, that like moving up stakes is the most fun thing. And for me, like dating when I wasn't very attractive and like I had to really try and really work on myself to get that was so fun. It was just like a little game. Anyway, so the question I was going to ask you was, because you have such a good grasp of how people think and why they have like trauma and things like that, does that give you some level of forgiveness or compassion towards the monsters that you are representing in court?
As an empath, it's hard for me not to be conscious of like the pain that they cause. Even though I understand them, I think more about the pain that they've caused others. And so my orientation would be more towards how can we heal the broken, as opposed to people that, like, let's just say people that are monstrous and are doing monstrous things, and there's going to be a long road towards, and it's possible they might not even ever be able to fully have redemption and behavioral change. You know, some of these people, child molesters and things like that, I don't even know that they can ever get better and away from that. Serial killers, you know, people like that, I just don't, if there's no healing for them, my sense on people like that, I've never been asked that question, but I think it's something where like I can accept that they're evil and doing really bad stuff, sociopathic killers. But there's also a cool book that just came out where it's like some people are high on the sociopath scale, but are actually just like awesome scientists. They're
Yeah,
just difficult to be in a relationship with, but they don't like kill anyone or anything. So like to me, I've seen every there's nuance to everything, but generally speaking, I don't I don't resent them. Like I don't have hatred towards them for it, but I think I have some revulsion, just some sense that like it's a venomous snake that'll bite you. And it's just hard to let it be free in society because it's just going to bite people.
for sure. I definitely don't think these people should be free in society, and that, yeah, I wouldn't ever consider letting these people out with other people. But at the same time, I feel like I have a slight fundamental disagreement about the nature of humanity in that sense, that I believe even these monsters deep down are good people. I think that they've been formed by their environment or some unfortunate genetic stuff. But I think deeper down than that, even deeper than genetics, I think that there's a good soul in there. And I believe that people are capable. I believe everyone's capable of healing to the point where they become a good person. It's just, it's unlikely given the society that they're born into.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I disagree, but I mean, the only thing I would push back on there possibly is I'm not sure we disagree, but can you de-age? Once your epigenetic expression has occurred, can you go back to being 10? So is it possible that after that gene is expressed that they just can't go back? If it's to the extent that there's a dark genetic expression, because I think of us as epigenetic potential. We're potential and we're shaped by the environment that triggers that expression. And so in some of these people, is it possible that it would require them to go back to being like before that development occurred? Can you go back to being 12? And if not, is that just what they are? Are they just older now? Are they just this genetic expression of sociopathy? And how far back could they go in that genetic expression to not be that way if that's what's causing it? Do I think that they're worthy of if you can see their humanity, can you also love it? Yeah, I do think you can. I think you can love a monster for its humanity, because like in a certain extent, if you didn't, you might just be hating a part of yourself, right? Like we learned with some of the Nazi stuff that just ordinary people can get caught up in some crazy fucking shit when they follow along blindly, or just other things. That's all kind of crazy stuff. But I think we're fairly close to emotionally, but I wonder if in practicality, if there's not something there that might be like a hard line. I don't know that there's science on that though.
Yeah, I'm not sure there's too much science. So the one group of people I've been a bit like unsure about is psychopaths, and I made the distinction between psychopaths and sociopaths as psychopaths who were born that way and sociopaths who had developed it through trauma.
Mm-hmm.
So psychopaths seem to show levels of antisocial behavior by the time they're 3.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm unsure whether those people can be reversed, because people have tried, scientists have tried using various things from therapy to LSD, and they've not managed to do it.
Right. If LSD can't do it, it's
maybe try ayahuasca. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe. Hey, dude, they should. Fuck it.
Yeah, I mean,
Mother ayahuasca, where you at?
Yeah, exactly. But with sociopaths, who I think a lot of people seem to think can't be reversed. Like I know myself, I was so high on the sociopathic spectrum.
Yes.
I did some terrible things. Luckily, I wasn't the kind of person that wanted to sexually assault someone or like molest someone or like murder someone or punch someone even. But I was a very manipulative person. I cheated, I lied, I did really horrible things to people.
I've done the same stuff in my past too, man. So
yeah, and honestly, that's the thing. I trust people who have been a monster, and people who have experienced the worst side of themselves and have overcome it. They're so much less likely to let that slip back in, because they've set that distinction. I'm not going to be this person.
Such a good fucking point, bro. It reminds me of Outliers, that book by Gladwell, where he's talking about, I think it was Outliers, maybe it's not, but it's one of them, where Gladwell's book where he's like, a lot of people break under this trauma, but the ones who are able to persevere and come through it come out with even more strength and ability than you would ever predict. And I think that's right, dude. Man, and that's that's a great way to articulate one of the things I think is so beautiful about you, bro. And hopefully about me is that we went through that shit. Other people don't have to, but we've got some wisdom from that, and we share that openly, and we want people to see that that's possible. Like if we can overcome incredibly crippling anxiety, depression, and sociopathy in our past, or whatever those tendencies, man, like, you know, hopefully that inspires people to at least like see the potential in themselves and think, hey man, if Jay-Z can rap like that, maybe I can do something like that a little bit, you know?
I'd love to hear more rap. And yeah, there's actually, there's like a biblical metaphor that always springs to mind if talking about this kind of stuff, where it's like when, like, the epitome would be like when Jesus dies on the cross, like a high vibrational person suffers so a lot of other people don't have to, like he dies for their sins. And I think that everyone can do that to some extent. Like if you go through something terrible, take that on and use that knowledge that you get from that experience and that after you've healed, to stop other people from going through it, and just like point out that where the pitfalls are and where the ditches are and things like that.
I love that. And I think you're exactly right. I think that my suffering helped me find a higher power and find my purpose. And that's why I guess I'm so comfortable and confident, like reaching out to you as a stranger and just saying, showing my heart and just seeing if it connected. And I thought it might, because just like, that's what I feel like I'm here to do, man. And like, I feel like when you're doing what you're supposed to do, the universe just has a cool way of, you know,
brings it all together, conspires to do shit that works for you. Yeah. I mean, I must say, I love your confidence of just being able to like reach it. Cause I think it was, I posted like a Facebook status being like, does anyone just want to have like a talk on YouTube? And you were like, yeah, that'd be me. And so many people who you think would say, yeah, we're like, oh, I don't know if I feel comfortable doing that. It's sort of a bit nerve wracking. And I just loved it. It's like, whatever.
We were going to debate feminism.
Really? Oh my God. I feel like we wouldn't disagree too much.
No, we don't. That's the thing. But I consider myself a feminist because I don't think the word's as toxic as you do.
Yeah, I mean, I've probably actually gone less. I probably think it's less toxic than I used to, but I would still never call myself that, because I feel like when you start describing yourself with a specific label, it does weird shit to your head, like vegan, and all that stuff. And I don't think any human's strong enough to escape that.
I just think that my definition of it is probably just like unique to me, but it's like, I want to empower women. You know what I mean? Like this movement of like getting men to love themselves and embody their value is also like my gift to women, because men should treat women better and women are capable of incredible things, and they have so much heart. And man, we'll talk about another pod maybe, or just off the air, but when they really love you, they just open up so much, and they just want to be able to do that. And the men aren't ready for it. You know, it's too rare right now to be a self-actualized, loving man who's strong and sexual and powerful and cool and emotionally impactful. It's so rare. You know, I used to say men are the prize that are like that are the prize. And women were like, well, that's not true. I'm still the prize too. And I was like, you're right. Both people that are like that are the prize, but there might be 5 or 10 women that are ready for that relationship to every one man that is. It's just rare in men, and it shouldn't be. We don't want it to be, you know?
Yeah, it's a good point. I haven't really thought about it too much, so I can't add too much to it, but that seems to be correct. Like I don't know that many guys that can have like a deep conversation about themselves and open up and be vulnerable.
Mm-hmm. And women, that's like they're so awesome and ready for that, and their hearts are ready for it. And you know, that's a good way to be a good lover for them and be good for them. And you combine that also with like your boundaries and your energy and your confidence, and it's just, you can imagine how arousing that is. Like literally in the sense of arousing, meaning excitement. It ties into everything. It's their whole being. They love it. And then guys stop looking at them like the fucking enemy or like a threat, or they're scared of them. There's no weirdness to go approach a beautiful woman then, because you know, like what you have to offer her is awesome. And she might not want that right then, but if she does, you know it's there. So you just go talk to her.
Do you feel comfortable with just like approaching random beautiful women?
So can I say this? I think I find most women beautiful.
Super okay to say.
So like I love to go up to like an older woman that just has just an outfit that I see, and I'm like, I know what you did today to put that outfit on and look that way, and I see you.
I do that. I go up to people and compliment them, whether male or female. And the reason I've started really doing that more recently is because I knew it made me uncomfortable. So I was like, it's doing good in the world and it makes me uncomfortable. It's like a double whammy. I definitely need to do this.
Bro, when you start doing that more, you're going to notice that you'll be like, you're going to have so many breakthroughs from doing that. And then pickup, they call that cold approach.
Oh, God.
And, that's like one of the best ways to come and get self-awareness, because it gives you so many intense feelings. It can be so nerve-wracking, quote unquote.
See that the cold approach thing, I don't feel super comfortable with yet, because I know how uncomfortable it can make women. Like going out with Hannah for so long, like she's a very physically, objectively, in other people's eyes, beautiful person.
Mm-hmm.
And when she walks in America, for instance, not so much in England, but in America, people will just come up to her nonstop, and it really bothers her because she's like, I'm just trying to walk. So I feel comfortable giving compliments with no expectation, like saying it and walking off. But I don't know how I feel about just like cold approaching someone. So
well, check this out. Emotionally orient towards her. Don't sexually. Don't use your eyes to see her. Use your heart to see her. Understand the energy of her as a being, and see the beauty that just could be inside of her, the potential beauty she has, that you're just checking to say, you're saying, hey, to see like what her inner beauty looks like. And how does she have a moment with you? Is there a little bit of a tension when you talk? That's good. A good tension that just sits there and you can be natural with it. And I say that because I legitimately, when I see an objectively physically beautiful woman, don't have a different emotional response to her than I would to any other woman, except that like possibly she's also a beautiful person and I would like to find out. Like, and I really want to see if she has this inner beauty or not. And so that when you have that, it changes how you exist in your space around them. You know, like I'm just not awed or there's no pedestal to her physical beauty. That doesn't mean you don't appreciate it. You should, but it just doesn't put it in a pedestal to me, because I'm interested in our emotional dynamic and what that would be like. And the way I'm going to find that out is by saying, hey, because I can't know that I can know that from her energy and looking at her, but I can't really know. I want to know. I want to sit in that energy with her for a second and see, do we have that vibe?
I think that what I've realized is that what I just described probably doesn't come from a place of genuine, like, that's my opinion. I feel like it probably came from a place of anxiety, and I was using anxiety, like, and I was rationalizing my behavior.
I thought so too, bro. But the fact that you noticed that quick is fucking impressive, man.
Damn.
No, you're right, by the way.
I got to approach people romantically, but I don't want to date anyone, so I'll do it later.
Hey, approach them from a place of warmth. That's a good middle ground.
But I mean, I genuinely don't want to date anyone new at the moment, so it would have to be.
Well, I just mean to not have anxiety sitting there as kind of like background white noise on that part of yourself. Just approach people with warmth as a way to, it'll combat that same anxiety, but it won't be for a romantic purpose because you're just being warm.
Man, that actually sounds so scary, which, yeah, I'll do it.
That means that you got to do it, basically.
I gotta do it. Fuck, yeah. I'll do it tomorrow.
Well, yeah, dude, we'll take it on. If you want to talk to me about it too, I'd love to, because there's ways that you can hold me accountable for certain things too, if you want, or you have friends that might do that. So.
No, I mean, I'll take all the accountability. I'll take as much fear as possible, please.
Yeah.
But I'd love to speak to you about it. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I hope this is the beginning of a good friendship for us, man. And I'm conscious of your time, but I'm really fucking thankful and grateful and humbled to be here.
I'm feeling it. You're a very interesting person. I must say that I mean, I see everyone is interesting, but there's a certain level of insight that you have. And I think it's something along the lines of, you can look at a topic of conversation and come up with a genuinely unique insight into it almost always. And that doesn't come from just like regurgitating someone else's opinion. I think that's truly special.
You're right. There's, like I said, I'm an integrator. So all the stuff that I've read is always coming to bear on everything. And I think everybody's doing that. But, when you had the passion that I had for seeing things and trying to figure things out, it kind of comes out. Man, that's probably the nicest compliment that someone's said to me in a long time. So I revert back to earlier. Thanks for the help. That 1A is that, but 1B is what you just said. So
nice. All right, cool. I'm going to let my cat in, which is a good time to end the pod. I hope people found this interesting, and I guess let me know in the comments if it's going up on YouTube. If you do, or if you have any questions for Thomas.
Check us out on Self-Love Army on Facebook, and we'll probably have some other stuff coming out soon.
Dude, that sounds like such a good movement. I've heard a lot about bad stuff about pickup artistry, but yours sounds like something I could get behind.
Yeah, I'm the opposite of pickup, but I'm like pickup deprogramming. I hope. So, hey, man, my pleasure, dude. Let's talk soon.
Cool. Peace. See you.